My name is Steve Matthews. I'm a Principal Environmental Health Officer. I've been working for Nottingham City Council for 20 years. My main role is enforcing standards within housing under the Housing Act 2004. The most common issues we find in properties are issues in relation to fire safety, electrical safety, and in the winter months, problems with boilers breaking down, which obviously is issues with excess cold. Many other problems exist with properties that we find, in particular kitchens. Landlords sometimes don't maintain them between tenancies. Sometimes a tenant takes a property on midway through renovation. We recently had a case where a member of the public complained to us about concerns for a family living in a property. We arrived at the property and the couple was renting out a bedroom, a lounge and a kitchen. If I show you these photos of the kitchen, the way we found it, the landlord had ripped down the lath and plaster ceiling and hadn't put the ceiling back up, so to speak. Also, taking all of the cupboards and etc. out of the kitchen, he'd left live conductors exposed from the electrical system, tiling off the walls, exposing bare plaster, and the ceiling that had come down from the lath and plaster was all left on the floor, exposing the lath and plaster and the laths with nails protruding through, so the floor itself was obviously very dangerous to walk on. And this property in particular was quite treacherous in the fact that the danger to people walking on that floor, the danger from electrics, and all of the multiple issues led us to the determination that this property was imminently dangerous to those tenants. We had no choice in this situation but to prohibit the property under our emergency powers and get those people out and put them into a place of safety. The tenants in this case were vulnerable people taken in by the landlord who had no alternative but to take on this property. The Selective Licensing scheme will ensure that landlords are managing the properties better, that they have the appropriate training and the appropriate documents in place for safety certificates as well as insurance. Not only that, the Selective Licence will have on it conditions which the landlord has to comply with, which in this case would prevent those serious issues of disrepair, and in turn it will improve the standards within the private sector. The Selective Licensing scheme will enable us to identify the most vulnerable in society who are living in the private rented sector, because those landlords who don't apply for a licence are most likely to house those type of vulnerable people. Therefore, we can use our enforcement powers and target better those properties that aren't licensed. Those landlords that decide to license who still house vulnerable people and exploit them, we also have our powers as well to enforce the conditions that are on those properties.